The Office is my favorite non-animated show. I've watched the whole show at least 5 times and the first seasons over 10 times. Like SpongeBob's first seasons, The Office has its own golden era, which in my opinion is seasons 2 through 7. After Steve Carell, who plays Michael Scott, left the show, at the end of season 7, some of the show's magic was gone. It still wasn't terrible, and I still enjoy a lot about season 8, especially the Florida arc, but that's when the good parts ended, and the season that came after it proved that the show really lost its magic and was but a mere shadow of its earlier seasons. Hey! I'm gonna get the good things out of the way first, so we can really delve into the aspects that make this season so terrible. First off, Catherine Tate's character Nellie is a lot more bearable in this season, as she by far was my most hated character when she stole Andy's job in the previous season. But they fixed her here, and while I wouldn't say I loved Nellie in season 9, she's not one of the things that make it bad. I also have to talk about the finale, which saves the show's legacy with Michael coming back and Dwight getting his good ending, marrying Angela. I will also say the last episodes before the finale are a lot better than the rest of the season, but honestly that isn't saying much. But I do think that anything after the farm episode is pretty good. My first problem with this season is Jim and Pam. I'm not a hater of these two, and I think they are both good characters. But the fact is, their arc this season is so insanely annoying and overall just terrible. In fact, I would even go as far as to say that this season ruins Jim for me. He went from being one of my favorite characters, who was one of the funniest, to this extremely unfunny jerk.
Show me! Show me funny! I want to say stories! Go!
An example is Cece's ballet recital. Jim is so clearly in the wrong here. Sure, Pam fucked up with the camera, but like how the fuck is it Pam's fault that you can't be at your own daughter's ballet recital? The whole story of Jim's second company is just an insanely dragged out reason for Jim and Pam to leave Dunder Mifflin in the finale. The worst part is that Jim is getting angry at Pam for no reason, because this is what leads to Brian's introduction and this really awkward storyline. The thing that annoys me the most is that it's never even implied that Brian is trying to get with Pam or anything like that, but the story is still so incredibly awkward and just downright filler. Nothing in the story matters, and it leads to nothing. The show has done plenty of meaningless stories before. Hell, my favorite show, SpongeBob, is like the king of meaningless stories. The difference between those earlier Office seasons and this is that the earlier seasons were actually funny. Nothing enjoyable comes out of the Brian arc, and this arc does not even include the worst episode. Let me introduce Here Comes Treble. Fuck Andy, fuck Aaron, and fuck this episode. Season 9 seems to think that these two are the most interesting characters in the show. Because why else would they give Andy the spotlight, and take Dwight, who is arguably the only great character in this season, and give Dwight perhaps the most boring story the show has told. There is one moment I enjoy in this whole story, and that is when Daryl tricks him to smear his face with peanut butter. And that's not even that funny. Now let's talk about Aaron and Andy for a moment. Their storyline in this episode is boring, really boring, but at least it isn't their terrible back and forth Jim and Pam ripoff. And that's where Pete comes into play. He is a boring but inoffensive character. He hasn't really done anything that bothered me. That much can't be said for his counterpart Clark though. But I am so not invested in the romance between Aaron and Pete. Mainly because Pete is such an uninteresting character. Which is weird because every character has their craziness turned up to max this season. Especially Kevin. Also, we already had the storyline of Aaron being with Gabe and Andy being jealous. Which was way better because Gabe is way more interesting than Plop? Was that the thing that Andy called him? Plop? I've seen this season multiple times but I still can't remember. The thing is, Andy was a dick when he left on the boat, but like Aaron treats it like he left her and dated someone else in the office and then wanted to get back with her or something. Oh wait, you did that, Aaron. I have a problem with Aaron, just skipping over the whole thing with his family having a huge crisis and Andy being upset about it. Like, I get that Aaron was abandoned as a child, but it really doesn't excuse her blaming him so much and leaving him because he left for a while. And this is coming from someone who doesn't enjoy Andy as a character. At least not in the past Michael seasons. Andy gets turned into... what can I call it?
Poor man's Michael Scott.
They really want Michael Scott, even though they, to their own fault, doesn't have Steve Carell anymore. Like, it's crazy how everything Andy does this season would be way better and way funnier if it was Michael doing it instead. Like now when I rewatch the show and Michael leaves, I would rather restart the show than to proceed through this dark era of The Office. And I haven't even talked about some of the terrible episodes like Lies, Roy's Wedding and Vandalism. I'm now gonna go through each character and give my thoughts on them in this specific season. Dwight is by far the best character in season 9. What can I say about him that hasn't already been said 1,000 times? He carries this whole season on its back. His storyline with wanting to be a father is heartwarming, and his ending was by far the best one for any character in the show at this point. Creed has always been a top tier character, even though he never even got one story in the show. He always delivered his one-liners and he still does in this season. Another character that is more background but still delivered this season is Stanley. More manly. He did nothing I disliked this season and he delivered some very solid lines as usual. Nate really shined this season. From being a one-off character for Cold Open, he turned into a regular and one of the most consistently funny characters. Like he's almost up there with Creed. Daryl came a long way from being one of the random warehouse guys to being main cast. And I think it was all good. The actor is funny naturally and his stories this season all worked. Kevin Malone was weird these last seasons. Despite what Michael warned him about in season 7, this man turned into a caricature and became more cartoon-like as a character. He went from being a little slow to being a word I won't say in the video because, yeah, YouTube might take the video down. But yeah, he seriously thinks about eating Angela's cat. Like yeah, Dwight put one of them in a freezer, but this is something else. He was still funny as fuck this season, but I feel like they could have pulled it off without some of the dumbing down. Surprisingly, probably my most hated character last season was alright here. Nellie really didn't do anything wrong in season 9. Like I said, she didn't do anything crazy funny either, but she was alright. Although I don't really see the reason for having her in the show, I can't complain that much. The same goes for Phyllis, who I stand by my word when I say she is the worst main office worker in the show. She seems to be nicer in this season and doesn't have her moments that really irritated me like in earlier seasons. Still, she wasn't funny, but she was alright. Toby was weird this season. And when I say weird, I mean weird. Like, bro, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? But even though he was so weird, I still didn't feel like it was anything bad. And he also might be the Scranton Strangler, so I must stop talking bad about him. Angela is next, and here there are a lot of things to talk about. During this season, she tried to kill and kneecap her co-worker. She hid the fact that Dwight was the father of her child for like a really long time. She got kicked out of her house and dumped by her gay husband and got all her cats taken away. We felt for Angela this season, and even though I thought the fact that she hid her baby from the real father for so long was douchey, I see why she did it, and like pretty much all the bad things she did this season, she had at least some sort of justification for. Meredith is a character that I honestly forgot was in this season. Except for the Lies episode, which I disliked, I can't remember her doing anything but a few horny one-liners. And I'm honestly fine with that. Next is Pete. He was in this season. He was a character. I don't know anything about what sort of character he was, except for the Aaron Lumps story, which essentially was his old character. He was alright. It was Aaron that took the first step, and in that way, I guess he didn't even do anything that bad. Yeah. Pete. Next. I think Pam should be the next one, because here starts the character that I have real problems with this season. She was all over the place, and at times I could support her, but at times she just seemed like she wanted to get into trouble. And like I said, I did not enjoy her storylines this season. But she wasn't the one that was mostly in the wrong, so I'm gonna go easy on her. Clark is someone I didn't like. I didn't find anything funny with him, but at the same time, the things I didn't like wasn't all that bad. Except for what he was trying to do with Aaron, which was like the first thing he did, and it was so scummy. But yeah, except for that, I can't really hate on him too much. The Senator. He was an asshole. Like, he played everyone the whole time and hurt people because of it. But he hurt characters more than the audience. So it's not terrible, just pretty bad. Andy is next, and I might get some hate for not having him further down, but although he was an asshole for a couple episodes, he didn't annoy me. Like, I get why he acted the way he did. He kinda stupidly leaves on a boat trip, and when he comes back to his partner, they are with someone else. Shut the fuck up, Ploop. Oscar, on the other hand, wow. I actually enjoyed Oscar a lot up to this season. He wasn't the funniest character, but he was a straight man, which is ironic. That at times cracked jokes, but why would you do this, Oscar? Like Dwight said, there are thousands of gorgeous men in the Scranton area. Jim. Jim is not my Jim Halpert, honestly. I don't know who is dressed up as John Krasinski this season, but I know that this isn't the Jim we used to love. At times this season, he made less sense than Michael Scott. Like, how is it Pam's fault that you are moving away from her? Like, she gets blamed for so much this season, and while I don't like Pam this season that much, Jim is on a whole other planet. And him being mean isn't even the worst thing. Jim has like no good jokes in all these episodes. Where are the snarky remarks he used to make all the time? Maybe he needed Michael Scott to crack the jokes at. Maybe this show doesn't work without Steve Carell. And maybe you shouldn't have made him leave, and this last season would have been a lot better. And lastly, we have Aaron. Sorry, but I don't like Aaron. This ain't only a season 9 thing, but I've had problems with her for a while. Firstly, why does she have to exist? It sounds a bit harsh, but like, this is a comedy show. What jokes does Aaron tell? Dumb jokes. Aaron is stupid. It's not like we have another character in this show that this season has his stupidity turned up to maximum. And it's not like the biggest, and in my opinion, best character in the show was continuously stupid for 7 seasons. It might be a nitpick, but if you have characters that can be stupid in the show, why do you need another stupid characters? And like, how many stupid jokes do you have to tell? And also, why does she have to be involved in the top 3 worst storylines on the show? I know this was the last season, but this story has pretty much been going on longer than Jim and Pam at this point. Or at least it feels that way. I just don't get any enjoyment out of watching Erin in the show, and I just don't feel like she is a necessity to the show as a whole. And I'm ready to get dislikes for that, but remember, this is only my opinion. This is just my opinion. I have nothing against the actress, and I've heard a lot of good things about her own show. But I just don't feel like her character, brings something new to the show at all. So finally, is this the worst season of TV? No, not even close. I'd rather watch this over many other shows. This season still manages to be funny at times, but it's just the worst season of one of my favorite shows. Thanks for watching.